We've all had moments of anger we regret. That's exactly what happened to Russia's first Tsar, and the painting that immortalized his tragic mistake still provokes controversy to this day. The masterpiece we're talking about is Ivan the Terrible and His Son Ivan, created by the renowned Russian artist Ilya Repin between 1883 and 1885. It's a psychological thriller frozen in time, a meditation on power and its costs, and a father's ultimate nightmare brought to life on canvas. What makes this painting so powerful isn't the act of violence itself. Repin chose not to show the actual strike. Instead, he captures something far more profound. The moment immediately after, when the father realizes the horror of what he's done. It's a universal moment that transcends its historical context, speaking to anyone who has ever regretted an action they can't take back. The painting's composition pulls you right into the scene. Ivan the Terrible cradles his dying son, his eyes bulging with horror and madness as he presses his hand against the wound he himself inflicted. Blood seeps between his fingers, a detail that would later prove so controversial that some viewers couldn't bear to look at it. The son's face, meanwhile, shows something even more heartbreaking, a gentle expression of forgiveness, even as his life ebbs away. But what drove Repin to create such a haunting image? The answer lies in the tumultuous political climate of 1880s Russia. When Repin began work on this painting, he had just witnessed something that shook him to his core: the assassination of Tsar Alexander II in 1881. Followed by the public execution of his killers. These events forced him to confront the cycle of violence that seemed to plague Russian history. But it wasn't just political events that inspired Repin. During this period, he attended a performance of Rimsky-Korsakov's symphonic suite Antar, particularly its second movement about vengeance. The music struck such a chord with him that he later wrote, "This sound wave took possession of me. I thought that I could not embody the state of the soul I had known under the influence of this music in a painting. I then remembered Tsar Ivan." The creation process was intense and deeply personal for Repin. He later described working on the painting in tears, saying he was tormented myself, corrected again and again what I had painted. He would sometimes hide the canvas away, doubting his own abilities, only to be drawn back to it again and again. To achieve the psychological realism he wanted, Repin carefully chose his models. For Ivan the Terrible, he used his friend and fellow artist, Grigory Mayasoidov. But perhaps the most significant was his choice for the dying Tsarevich, whom Repin selected because he saw in Garshin's face the predestination of a man irreparably condemned to perish. The painting's impact was immediate and lasting, but not always in ways Repin might have expected. When it was first shown to his fellow artists in 1885, they sat in stunned silence. The great critic Ivan Kramskoy finally broke the quiet, declaring it a masterpiece, and praising how Repin had captured not just the physical horror of the scene, but its deep psychological truth. However, not everyone shared this view. The painting proved so controversial that it became the first artwork ever censored in the Russian Empire. Tsar Alexander III, perhaps uncomfortable with this portrayal of royal violence, ordered it to be hidden from public view. Only after considerable negotiation was the ban lifted. But the controversy didn't end there. The painting has been physically attacked twice, once in 1913 and again in 2018. The first attack came from a mentally ill man who slashed the canvas 3 times with a knife, crying out, "Blood! Why the blood? Down with the blood!" The curator of the Tretyakov Gallery was so distraught by this vandalism that he threw himself under a train. More recently, in 2018, a drunk visitor attacked the painting with a metal pole, causing serious damage. What's particularly interesting about this incident is that the attacker, like many Russian nationalists, claimed he was upset by what he saw as historical inaccuracy, the suggestion that Ivan the Terrible had actually killed his son. What makes this painting endure isn't just its technical brilliance or historical significance. It's the universal truths it reveals about human nature. Yes, it's a specific historical moment, but it's also about the consequences of unchecked power, the cycle of violence, and the terrible weight of irreversible actions. The painting's psychological complexity is remarkable. Look at Ivan's eyes. They tell an entire story of realization and regret. The way he clutches his son shows both desperate love and the horror of what he's done. The son's expression of forgiveness adds another layer of emotional depth, suggesting the possibility of redemption even in our darkest moments. For modern viewers, the painting raises uncomfortable questions about power, violence, and responsibility that feel just as relevant today as they did in Repin's time. It asks us to consider how a moment of anger can have consequences that echo through generations, and how even the most powerful people can be undone by their own actions. The historical impact of the event depicted was enormous. The death of Ivan's capable heir led to a succession crisis that ultimately plunged Russia into the time of troubles. But beyond these historical consequences, the painting speaks to something more personal and universal, the terrifying possibility that in a moment of rage, we might destroy what we love most. Today, Ivan the Terrible and his son Ivan remain one of Russia's most famous paintings, continuing to provoke discussion, debate, and strong emotions. Its power lies not just in its dramatic subject matter or technical excellence, but in its ability to make us confront uncomfortable truths about human nature, power, and the terrible price of uncontrolled anger. The painting reminds us that no matter how much power we might have, we're all vulnerable to our own worst impulses, and the consequences of our actions can be irreversible. It's a warning about the destructive power of violence, but also a meditation on remorse, forgiveness, and the possibility of redemption, themes that continue to resonate with viewers more than 130 years after its creation. What do you think about this masterpiece? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most controversial paintings, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. That way, you won't miss our upcoming explorations of other fascinating artworks that changed history.